Hi children, good morning. Welcome. Welcome to today's social science class. Today we are going to start a new lesson that is also from your history. Second chapter named New Kings and Kingdoms. New Kings and Kingdoms. So already we completed first chapter and we are continuing history, and today we are going to start second chapter, New Kings and Kingdoms. Okay, now you have to ready for the class. You have to take textbook and notebook also. Then watch this video to minimum 2 times, and after that read many times today's portion and underline important points. Then to given box. Okay, so let us start our class. Chapter 2, New Kings and Kingdoms. Children, many new dynasties emerged after the 7th century. Map 1 in your textbook shows the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent between the 7th and 12th centuries. Children, maybe you have doubts about century. What do you mean by century? Century means period of 100 years. Okay, 100 years together is known as century. Okay, so first century was start in AD 1 and first century ending in AD 100. Okay, so 1 to 100, AD 1 to AD 100 as known as first century. Okay, so AD and BC already you know. AD and BC, AD after Christ, Anno Domini, okay, means after Christ, and BC means before Christ. So that you already studied in 6th standard. Then second century was starting 101 up to 200. Okay, so 200 AD up to 200 AD, second century. Okay, then 20th century it was starting 1901 and ending 2000. Okay, AD 2000. Okay, children. 20th century ended 2000 and 21st century started 2001, and now we are in 21st century. It was started 2001 and still it is going on. Now it is 2021. So this map shows the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent between the 7th and 12th centuries. In this period, 5 major dynasties existed in Indian subcontinent. They are Gujara Pradihara, Rashtrakutas, Palas, Cholas and Chagumanas. First of all, Gujara Pradihara, they were located western Uttar Pradesh, northern Madhya Pradesh. Then Rashtrakutas, Maharashtra, central Madhya Pradesh, northern Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Palas, they located Bengal, northeast of India. Then Chola, the southern part, Tamil Nadu. Cholas located in Tamil Nadu. Then Chagumanas, eastern Rajasthan, Delhi, Haryana, Punjab. So these are the 5 major dynasties existed in this period. They are Gujara-Pradhiharas, Rashtrakutas, Palas, Cholas and Chagumanas. The emergence of new dynasties. By the 7th century, there were big landlords or warrior chiefs in different regions of the subcontinent. Existing kings often acknowledged them as their subordinates or samantas. They were expected to bring gifts for their kings or overlords, be present at their courts, and provide them with military support. As Samantas gained power and wealth, they declared themselves to be Mahasamanta or Mahamandaleshwara, the great lord of a circle or region, and so on. Sometimes they asserted their independence from their overlords. One such instance was that of the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan. Initially, they were subordinate to the Chalukyas of Karnataka. In the mid 8th century, Dandidurga, a Rashtrakuta chief, overthrew his Chalukya overlord and performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha, literally the golden womb. When this ritual was performed with the help of Brahmanas, it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya, even if he was not one by birth. Children, in this period, society was followed Varna system. According to Varna system, only Kshatriyas can rule. Sometimes, like the Samantas, they become very powerful, but they are maybe not in Kshatriya clan. So, in front of these Brahmanas, if they are doing this ritual, Hiranyagarbha ritual, they can also become a Kshatriya. So, like that way, people could accept that ruler. So, they did these kinds of rituals. These rituals only can do in front of the Brahmanas, and Brahmanas should be accept that one. So, like that way, those who are not Kshatriyas and those who are very powerful and they that kinds of people they adopted Kshatriya clan like this way. In other cases, men from enterprising families used their military skills to carve out kingdoms. For instance, the Kadamba Mayuri Sharman and the Gurjara Pradihara Harichandra were Brahmanas who gave up their traditional professions and took to arms, successfully establishing kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan respectively. Figure 1 on your textbook. Wall relief from Cave 15, Ellora, showing Vishnu as Narasimha, the man lion. It is a work of the Rashtrakuta period. Administration in the kingdoms. Many of these new kings adopted high sounding titles such as Maharaja, Adiraja, Great King, Overlord of Kings, Tribhuvarna Chakravartin, Lord of the Three Worlds, and so on. In each of these states, resources were obtained from the producers, that is, peasants, cattle keepers, artisans, who were often persuaded or compelled to surrender part of what they produced. Sometimes they were claimed as rent due to a lord who asserted that he owned the land. Revenue was also collected from traders. These resources were used to finance the king's establishment as well as for the construction of temples and forts. They were also used to fight wars, which were in turn expected to lead to the acquisition of wealth in the form of plunder and access to land as well as trade routes. The functionaries for collecting revenue were generally recruited from influential families and positions were often hereditary. This was true about the army as well. In many cases, close relatives of the king held these positions. 400 taxes. The inspections of the Cholas who ruled in Tamil Nadu refer to more than 400 times of different kinds of taxes. The most frequently mentioned taxes is vati, taken not in cash but in the form of forced labor, and kadame or land revenue. There were also taxes on thatching the house, the use of ladder to climb palm trees, a cess on succession to family property, etc. Okay, children, let us wind up today's class. Now you have to read this portion many times and after that underline important points. Then do given works. Okay, thank you. Thank you to listening my class.